think of eating disorders as a problem for women, but as many as a quarter of those who struggle are men.
Now, it took Georgia State senior Judson George a decade to get help for his bulimia because he grew up thinking he was the only guy who had it. Now, the Fox Medical Team's Beth Galvin is here now with more of his story. Beth?
And Russ and Sine, this is such a tough experience for him to talk about because for a long time Judson felt completely ashamed and alone, that he couldn't tell anybody what was going on, not even his family. But all of that began to change when he finally got help 7 years ago.
Judson George likes to photograph images of life some of us might overlook. And on Thanksgiving, at our request, the 33-year-old Georgia State psychology student took these photos of his family's celebration after sitting down with us to talk about something he couldn't for years, what it was like to grow up with a secret eating disorder.
I can remember at a very early age always realizing that I felt very different than other people, that I noticed I didn't feel as confident as I noticed other kids acting. I didn't fit in.
Crippled by anxiety about the way he looked, at 14, George says he began throwing up once or twice a week after meals, trying to get control of his weight and his fear.
The point where I actually realized that I had an eating disorder was, I'd say, around the age of 17, and I just physically couldn't stop myself from binging and purging anymore. It was this behavior I thought I had been in control of for so long, and suddenly it controlled everything I did, and I didn't have a choice.
George, who now volunteers running the Instagram feed for the Eating Disorders Information Network, or EDIN, would eventually be diagnosed with bulimia. It's one of a handful of eating disorders that EDIN's founder, psychologist Dr. DINA ZECKHAUSEN, says are actually more common in boys and men than many of us realize.
It used to be that we were thinking around 10% of people with eating disorders were male. Now it's probably closer to 20 or 25%.
But there's a catch.
Because this is viewed as a girl's problem, it's a lot harder for males to reach out and get help.
I felt a lot of shame, and I felt ashamed to be me because I had this problem that I thought was only for women. That makes no sense that a problem could only be for one gender or another, but I felt like it was a secret I had to keep.
When George hinted to his therapist about what he was doing,
I kind of got smirked at the first time I even brought it up, like, okay, like, it's being dramatic.
Then 7 years ago, hospitalized and sick, Judson George hit a tipping point.
And it was there that I had sort of this moment of, I don't think this is worth my life.
That's when he told his parents.
The severity really sunk in very quickly, and they, within days, started mounting the troops to find help.
Guys need help just as much as girls need help. These are very damaging disorders, they're dangerous, and they can be deadly.
Today, Judson George is in recovery and doing really well. And he's sharing his story for all of the other young men out there who think they're the only one.
I think the strongest thing anyone can do is ever ask for help, and it's the only thing that saved my life, because I couldn't have done it myself.
And Judson George now speaks at schools and different organizations sharing his story, and he's met several men through that speaking who are also in recovery from eating disorder, and many have shared that same feeling of being the only man that they think that they know who are struggling with an eating disorder. So there's still that really pervasive sort of myth that this is a woman's problem, you know, that can make it hard to get help.
Well, I applaud him for sharing his story.
Absolutely.
Because you know there are so many people out there who are relating to him right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he looks really good,
Yeah.
very healthy, although I guess, you know, when you're in the midst of a disorder, you know, how you look is not
Yeah,
really,
isn't
is not
very
the important
indicative
thing,
of
it's really
what's
how you
going
feel.
on. Right, yeah.
Beth, thanks.